Hey everybody, welcome to the channel and welcome to another episode of Card Talk with Tim and Harry. This is episode 10, the Astra Militarum faction overview. I'm trying to get that through my head because I keep wanting to say the Imperial Guard, but I guess we got to have the official Latin, name, which as someone who took Latin for like 6 years and doesn't remember anything, yeah, so this has not helped me clearly. Um,
Uh,
but we're so excited. What's going on with you, Harry? How are we doing?
what is happening, everyone? Yeah, man. Like, I'm deep, deep in World of Warcraft, and I like, I'm like pugging Mythic Plus. I'm like 8 hours streaming. Yeah, I'm in WoW, but I do still play a bit of Warpforge. I still got time for Warpforge, and like it's full release now. So like,
Yeah,
if there's ever a time to play, it's now. You know?
so true. What a good setup. There are like all these giveaways. They're starting. I think I think it's as of today. So it's if you enter the code Warpforge, as of today, you'll get 10 all army boosters. They're doing faction giveaways. I think starting next week. We've got drops are already live for the next week and a half. Yeah, it truly is the best time to come back or start Warpforge because you're just going to get so much free stuff. And let me tell you, and Harry knows this too because we've been playing since the alpha, it's not the easiest to build collections so quickly in this game. And so getting any freebies is the way. So it's great. I get to suck Harry out of the World of Warcraft and back into the world of Warforge.
Yeah.
A lot of war and warping. So, um,
Come on.
but yeah, we always have fun with these episodes. We're changing it a bit because I empathized and I didn't want to drag Harry through 3 hours of us looking at cards. So today we're gonna do a shorter episode. We're calling this the faction overview. For those who checked out my video earlier this week, kind of did a little primer. It was more like, hey, we've got like 30 cards. Let's kind of talk about what that looks like. But today on Card Talk, we are not doing the full collection, of course, but we are going to be looking at really the broad strokes. We'll be looking at Warlords, we'll be looking at infantry, vehicles, as well as different rarities of cards. And I put together some of the ones that I would say, even if they're not the most powerful, they really stand out or they've got something really interesting going. So then I get to just throw Harry in the trenches with me and see see what he thinks of all these cards because Harry, you haven't checked anything out besides a passing glance so far, right?
Basically, yeah, I've not
Okay.
like had a serious look, just a passing glance. Like it's hard, it's hard with all the it's being put everywhere, and
Yeah.
like I'm going into the game and playing against them. So like I don't think I've seen any legendaries.
Yeah, well, we've got at least five that we are going to take a look at today, and there's a lot going on. Obviously, I'm sharing my opinion, Harry sharing his opinion. Take what you will of it, but I think we're looking at a pretty powerful release. Not to tip my hand too early here, but I'm excited to get into this and see what this faction is going to bring to the game. Happy birthday, Warforge! You made it a year of
Yeah,
early access. And even going back to the demos that I remember playing and itching for the real game to come out. So I feel like there's just so much to look forward to. Shout out to BJ and the Ecclesiarch and Andreas, the I think it's the like co-founder of EG who works on this. Um, Go check out BJ and Ecclesiarch's channel for that episode of the Forgecast. If you didn't, they got to do like a whole pre-release event. It was really really sick. Really really exciting for the community to get to see the cards actually played before even getting to play with them. So there's just a ton to look forward to. So Harry, are you ready? Are you ready for the Astra Militarum and
I'm
checking out all the good stuff that
more than
comes with
ready. Yeah.
them? All right. First things first. Can't dive into it without talking about the mechanics. And I was wrong. I'll be the first to say it. I thought we were going to have three mechanics. We only have two, and that's a new thing for a lot of the faction releases this year. So let's just talk about them real quick. Obviously, we got to look at the cards to really get a sense. But duty is essentially a quote one-time prey ability, right? So you use it, you get the effect, and then there's like a little, you'll see like a little X pop up on the duty symbol that says you cannot use it again. However, there are cards obviously in the set that allow you to reload that duty ability. So just kind of think about it as prey that probably is a little bit more powerful. It depends on the card, depends on the rarity, of course. That you're going to be able to guarantee using one time, but can be reloaded through different abilities. Even the Warlord that I got to reveal, that is one of his abilities, is to reload the duty effect of any unit. So, I wasn't thinking this was going to be too powerful. It is just extra value on a card. You have to be able to attack something to use that, and then it uses the effect instead. So definitely an interesting take on something we've seen. And then Regiment is essentially Mob, for those who know it, but for ranged attacks. So it's when another unit makes a ranged attack, gain X effect. So we just have this effect, Regiment, off of the Medic, that says when you deal a ranged attack, and obviously the floor of these cards is like your Warlord is doing that, then heal a unit, random friendly unit for 1 health. And then if you have more units on board, obviously you're getting more and more effects. But so far, what do you think about these effects, Harry? Do they feel powerful? Do they feel underpowered? What's your kind of initial take?
It's hard to say, isn't it? Without like the heal one, I don't know. The heal one's when you attack with range.
Yeah, it has to be range. That's how Regiment works.
Yeah. So you have to attack with range for Regiment, and then you have to have something with Regiment on the field as well.
Yeah, you'll see with units that have it. So like it'll be a 2/2 with 3 health that then has the Regiment ability, and so obviously your Warlord can trigger that ability if they attack with a ranged attack. But then if you play other units, right, that can attack, you'll get that benefit as well. Yeah, I agree. It's hard to look at these on kind of paper and be like, how good are these? So we're just going to be discussing all that today. So let's just dive in, shall we?
Yeah.
For any faction, we got to look at the Warlords, right? These are the 3 Warlords that you can use, that you can build your deck around. And we've got some pretty wild stuff. They all have a duty ability, which is pretty crazy. On top of the fact that they generate their specific ephemeral Warlord talent. So you're kind of getting quite a bit of value just by playing these Imperial Guard, these Astra Militarum Warlords. So I got to reveal Commissar Dankler here, who is able to give something flank, and then his talent we'll get to in a second. But the other thing to note for Dankler is that he has 30 health, right? So this is the only other 30 health Warlord is Warshaper. By the way, for those who are keeping score, that's like Harry's favorite deck. So
Yeah.
I'm sure he'll be playing Commissar Dankler. I can't imagine he's not going to. So that's exciting. That's exciting for Harry. That's what Commissar Dankler does. Ursula Creed, I will say right now, this is the Warlord that I think everyone is going to be most concerned about in terms of how good it is. That it's very powerful, and we'll see. But her ability is deploy a shock trooper. We'll get into that in a minute for her duty ability, and then we'll talk about the talents. And then for Lord Solar Leontis, and I think Ecclesiarch called this guy as well as a few others, riding in on the horse, which looks pretty sick. It's just kind of a regular, just deal 3 damage to something. But he's got that 40 health, 2/2 on the attack stats for everything. But that's what we're looking at in terms of the folks who will be leading the Astra Militarum. Now let's get into what do they do. So the Warlord talents. So we discussed their duty. So lead by example, talked about this just a couple minutes ago. Give +2 health to a friendly unit and reload its duty ability. This to me seems really strong. Obviously, I know Harry, we got to look at more duty abilities to get a better sense. But I think the idea of paying 2 energy to get +2 health, that's actually better than what Warshaper offers technically on his talent, and the fact that you can reload the duty ability of your Warlord, right, which is to give more flank for Commissar Dankler, or that it can hit a friendly unit, including vehicles and troops, just feels like it's kind of doing everything you want it to. So I think it leans a little bit more aggressive. It leans a little bit more heavily on making sure there's quite a lot of duty cards in your deck. I feel like I'm just going to keep saying duty and keep thinking about that word over and over again, as I have so far. But yeah, so what do you think about that, Harry? Just this ability.
You know me, I lean towards these warlords all the time.
Yeah.
Give 2 health to a friendly unit and reload its duty ability. I reckon it's quite strong.
Yeah.
You could do that every turn as well.
Yeah, if you've got the energy for it, right? Like this is all going to be about sequencing and curving out. But it just feels like such a great option for a pretty small cost.
Yeah.
And I felt like we were starting strong with that, but let's just go right over to Legendary Commandant. So this may look familiar. I'm sure it does to quite a few folks. Choose an Astra Militarum stratagem and add it to your hand. Lower its cost by 1. So Magus, for the Gene Sealer cults, does this exact thing, except it's a troop, right? And so it allows you to choose from 3 options, and you're able to choose one. These are cards generated outside of your deck. So this does mean you can hit legendaries, as you can with Magus. And so this is essentially just a Magus for stratagems. And we're going to look at some stratagems. You tell me what you think of this. But I think most of the community, if not all of the community, agrees that getting 3 options, the fact that you can get legendaries and epics potentially repeated and lower the cost of those cards by 1 is just a really powerful effect that we've already seen. So unless these stratagems are garbage, I can't see this ability being anything other than extremely strong.
So. Yeah, I think this is quite good, yeah. It's a replay of the other hero we had before, innit? He was strong.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you think about Varro, right, where his ability is to pull a stratagem from your deck. And in some ways, maybe that ability would be better than this in terms of how you build your deck. But just the raw power that abilities like this and Magus have is very clear. And I think that's going to be a pretty scary thing, especially when we start looking, taking a look at some of these stratagems. So yeah, we've seen a bit of this before, and we just know that it's pretty strong. Interesting iteration here on this last talent, last but not least, Lord Commander. 2 energy, give +1 ranged and melee to your units until your next turn. So we had Ramatek release for the Necrons. His ability operates similarly, where he gets armor and +1/+1 until the following turn. So it seems like their EG seems to be moving more towards this frame of like, it's not powerful enough just to give something a buff on your turn. If we want to kind of turn the power knob up a little bit more, giving it for a full turn cycle, actually, maybe disincentivizes your opponent from attacking you or your warlord, or rather your warlord or your units. I'll say whenever I played Warshaper, Harry, you'll enjoy this. Warshaper story time. When I play against Ramatek and he armors himself up and gives himself more attack than me, I'm not really gonna want to attack a lot of the time. Usually what I had to do was wait until they deploy a troop, and then I would be attacking with my warlord. So I think Lord Commander and the direction of these cards is definitely making kind of this raw stat ability from warlords definitely quite a bit better. Even if it's just buffing itself so that your opponent can't get a good trade on your warlord's health without taking more damage, I think that's a direction that allows for people to want to pick that warlord more. I don't know what you think, Harry. But.
Yeah, like it gives you more avenues to shake up the game a bit. which is fun. Like you said, you was playing War Shaper and you didn't want to attack into him because you were taking more
Yeah.
damage. So it's like you're shaking the game up. You're making, because War Shaper always wants to attack.
Yep.
You're making it so he don't want to attack. You know.
Yeah, it's so funny. Just having an extra turn of that effect changes the power pretty noticeably. So yeah, that's what the Warlords do. I'm just going to tab back to the Warlords so you can remember what their duty ability is. And Shock Trooper, we will talk about it in this next slide. Don't worry, but just remember that Ursula can also make a Shock Trooper from her duty ability, and then also use her like very strong ability. You know, we think about Anva, and then we think about how Anva was upgraded into Magus essentially, in a way, and now we have like kind of the newest iteration, which is Ursula Creed, and I think there's just been a ton of buzz about her, and I think there's a good reason for that. So those are the Warlords and their talents. Let's get into some cards.
Let's go. One thing
Commons.
I will say
Oh yeah,
is
go ahead.
I thought they were gonna have an ogre boss.
Oh, buckle up, buddy. Oh, in terms of like the Warlord, I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When
yeah,
you
yeah.
said, "Oh, you're gonna really like that ogre," I thought, "Oh, there's gonna be an ogre boss," you know?
I got you. Yeah, I did tease for Harry that the Ogren were in this set. You know what? Honestly, that would be a sick reinforcement if they do that in the
Yeah.
future. No Ogren Warlords, sadly. But we're actually going to be we're looking at an Ogren unit right now, and there is an Ogren legendary. So
Okay.
that is pretty exciting. We're going to start with commons. I selected 5 cards. Again, I'm not saying these are the best cards, but I think they have a clear identity, and you know we're offering what I would also say something kind of different, or they're upgrading what we've already seen. So just to highlight Shock Trooper here, this unit right in the middle, the 2 cost 1/2/3 with Vanguard and Duty, deal 1 damage. That is what Ursula can make each turn with her 2 energy. Sorry, misspoke. This is what Ursula can make from her Duty ability. So you only get it once, right? Unless you reload that. But it kind of plays well, right? Because you're creating a Vanguard unit that has 3 health. We know how strong Junith can be, creating 3 health units. And if you can keep doing that, and then you're drawing some sick stratagems, I don't know. That seems great to me. But
Yeah.
before we get into that, let's start with a 1-drop, which is funny, common, that just seems great to me. So Feyburn, Vanquisher, 1 energy, 1/2/2. Obviously, this is going to die to everything. But its rally ability: choose a troop in your hand, lower its cost by 1. Troop includes vehicles. So when we get to vehicles and the beefy ones that cost a lot, and we start kind of accumulating these ways of making them cheaper, they get a lot scarier because they hit the board a lot sooner. And I just think cards like Faber and Vanquisher are going to be great. You know, yes, it's going to die. It's not going to offer much value past its rally ability, but it's cheap. You can play like a 2-drop and this on 3 energy, right? Like you can kind of hold it in your hand for a particular sequence if you want to, or you can just toss it out early alongside your Warlord ability, and you get to choose that troop in your hand, right? It's not random. It's not choose 3. It is straight up choose the one that you want to be cheaper. What do you think about that card, Harry?
You know what? I don't really like 1-drops. I know it
Yeah.
sounds mad.
Yeah.
I've never really but reducing the cost of a card in your hand
So
is it
so good.
it warrants an include. You know, with me, if I'm gonna make a deck, I'm gonna be making a deck from scratch. Like like just testing things. That will start in my starting deck.
I just think everyone's going to play it. I 100% agree. Like it, just lowering something's cost by 1 is really impactful in this game because the game is generally fairly fast depending on the matchup. Though it can go longer. Um, yeah, it's just it's if you think that this ability is not strong, I urge you to try it, especially if you're a new player. And I'm telling you, this is what you want to be doing.
Yeah.
You really do. Yeah, I honestly kind of hope we see more 1-drops like this because then it sort of changes something, right? It means that you're including cards that are easy to kill, but that have this effect. If you draw them late, even as well, like it can kind of fix your hand a little bit. Um, and I just kind of like these role player cheap cards because I just think it makes decks a little bit more consistent. It may even like, yes, it could increase the power level because it lets you drop something in this case that's super strong ahead of schedule. But I kind of like that sort of design, not necessarily around cost reduction, but I like the idea of like a cheap thing that comes out, has a little bit of value, and just provides like utility to your deck, if that makes sense.
And
Um,
her artwork is lovely.
Oh, and we got these fully. It's so nice. I didn't have to clip these. I just took them right from the Warforge website. Shout out to EG for that. That's been a huge help making these videos. It's just pulling the exact art from the card database. Yeah, she looks cool. I love this
Yeah.
Faber Vanquisher.
She looks
Uh,
better than some of the legendaries out there.
I know the detail, like the fire in the background, like oh.
Yeah.
And then I can't wait to see what the upgraded borders look like for these cards.
Ooh.
It's gonna be nuts. I'm sure it's gonna be sick. So we talked a little bit about Shock Trooper going up the cost here. I don't know that you're trying to play this card itself in your deck. There are a lot of cards that generate Shock Troopers, but on rate, 2 energy, 1/2/3 with Vanguard, and it has a little ability on top of it. Isn't bad. But yeah, I'm not looking to like slam Shock Trooper in my deck like I think Vanquisher. Um, but we'll talk about cards that generate them, and clearly having multiple Vanguard units like Nemezer, right, from the Necrons, can be quite impactful. And this is 3 health, not 2, and that's a big deal. Um, so I did not skip it. Just wanted to talk about some of the units. Move. Wanted to kind of highlight this. 2 energy. Give flank to all your infantry troops. Now remember, this is not Crump to Gits for you Orc players. You got to have the units on the board, then you give them flank, not the other way around. Because it says give flank to all your infantry troops. It's not play. I forget what the wording of Crump to Gits is, but it's slightly different. Um, this card from the Orcs and playing them, and Harry, I don't know how much you played Crump to Gits when you were playing a bit of Orcs, but that card could be very impactful. You didn't always want 2 copies in your deck. It also was specific, I would say, to like specific combos. Like it's more of a combo card than like a raw power card. But giving flank to a bunch of cheap things that just came into play, and paying 2 energy to then let them, get value on the board, I would say generally is pretty good. But we're gonna have to see kind of what the cards offer in terms of getting all these troops on the board at once.
Yeah. It looks like it could be strong.
Yeah. I felt like, I picked a lot of units for a lot of these slides because the units are sick, but I definitely wanted to highlight some stratagems that I think will be role players for this set. So those are the first 3. Moving onward and upward to this massive man himself, Ogrin. 3 energy, Vanguard. All the Ogrins have Vanguard, by the way. 4/3/4. So this is literally an inverted 3-drop Vanguard unit from Chaos, who is also a common. And this is just like, these are stats you want. That's all I could say about this card. 4 health on 3 energy. Vanguard is annoying, and this punches above its weight into certain cards. And I would say there are a lot more melee flankers in the game than there are range flankers. So Ogrin's likely to kill whatever is attacking into it. Just a really solid, beefy boy. That's all I got to say about this guy.
Yeah, he's cool. He's cool.
And a card, just moving onward and upward from there, that I think most people are saying is one of the best art in this set. The Attilan Rough Rider. 4 energy for a 4/2/4 flank. It's one of the few cards I think that has flank on its actual card, not given from something else. And it's got a rally ability. If you control no other troops, gain Bloodthirst. For those who may have forgotten, Bloodthirst allows you to attack twice in 1 turn. So this is a 4 energy flanker. It's the same exact stats as the Banshee coming out of the Eldar. But if you kill something, right? Maybe they've got two little cheap units looking at you, Junith, right? Maybe you've got two little Sisters of Battle. This thing takes out both and lives. Um, I don't know. I just think Attilan Rough Rider. I don't know why you wouldn't play it in your deck. The downside obviously is that its ranged attack is quite lacking. But I just feel like this thing's going to be quite a role player in the mid game to make sure that you get to the late game.
Yeah, this is strong.
Look at this dude. He's got like the sick spear and like the armor and the Attilan vibe going on here. I don't know. It's a good time. So there's plenty of other I would say like noteworthy comments, but wanted to highlight an interesting kind of array of comments, and I would say in particular, Faber Vanquisher, Ogren, and Attilan Rough Rider. I expect to see quite a lot of, and I would encourage you, especially if you're new to the game and you're checking out the official release as of today. These are really solid comments. But let's get moving on to the rares, shall we? And I picked quite a few stratagems for this because we looked at quite a few units before, and we're going to start with an absolutely concerning card, and Harry will know exactly what I mean. Full Throttle, 1 energy. The next vehicle you play this turn costs 2 less. Does this remind you of anything?
Space Marines.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it operates a little differently, right? You have to play it that turn. It's not rapid deployment where you do it and then the effect sticks until you play it. But it's also 1 energy to ramp you 1, right? You're paying 1 energy to essentially buy 2 energy. So it is just strictly like if I have a 6 drop, I can play it on turn 5, that's a vehicle, right? If I have a 7 drop, I can play it on turn 6, and so on and so forth. So we already saw something that interacts with reducing the cost, right? We looked at the 1 drop that does that. Full Throttle is specific to vehicle, but says reduce by 2. So we're going to see how this starts to add up pretty quick. But what do you think about card effects like this, Harry? What are your thoughts?
Like, it's scary because what happened with Space Marines, so I'm a little bit like, oh, what's going to happen? But I ain't really seen none of the vehicles, so I can't say that. Oh yeah, but they're gonna be strong, aren't they? They're gonna be mad. There's gonna be tanks. There's gonna be they're gonna have nutty effects, aren't they?
Yeah, I think it's safe to say. Yeah, they've got quite a few effects. The vehicles are definitely scary, and I think again, I don't want to say anything, especially before I've even played with the cards. But I just want to say that I wouldn't be surprised if we see some kind of vehicle mana cheat kind of nonsense. I don't know how consistent, I don't know how powerful, but I think it will be there. And let us know in the comments what you think. I will say for my piece, energy reduction here and there can be fun, but I do want to, from a design standpoint, I'd be interested to see what other things we can do to make late game units more valuable. I have a couple ideas about that. Don't want to go on a tangent here, but and I'm happy to talk about it in the comments. But we will see what damage Full Throttle can do, and I imagine it will be some. But actually, Ecclesiarch talked about this next card, Recon Operation. I would love to see more cards like this. I think this is a chef's kiss card. All enemies lose stealth and camouflage. If no enemy is affected, draw 2 cards. If it's just exactly what you want. It's a modal card where you get the value, great. They lost stealth, they lost camo. And if you're not going to get the value and the card would be a dead card in your hand, pay 2 energy like Hero's Respite to get 2 cards.
This is good.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I think most people will play it.
Good against Tyranids as well.
Yeah, good against Tyranids, good against Gene Stealer cults. They've got some nasty stealth units too. camo against chaos. Um, yeah, I mean, there's plenty of decks where Recon Operation would be good, but it's such a better card because when it's a dead card, it's a draw two for 2 energy. So I really hope we see kind of these modal cards where it's like, sweet, this is a great tech card in some matchups, but in other matchups where it would suck, it's actually just good. It's just a decent card advantage card. Um, so I hope we get to see that more. So Recon Operation, I think, is a one of an early favorite for me in terms of card design. I think that's great. Speaking of card advantage, we're gonna we're gonna go to a card summary execution, which is technically non-card advantage or negative, or I should say. 3 energy, destroy a friendly troop and a random enemy troop. So we were wondering if we were gonna get some weird execution kind of stuff going on because that is flavorful to the Astra Militarum. And when I say negative card advantage, you're spending a card to kill one of yours and your opponent's. But, as we talked about earlier with the Shock Troopers, if you're just getting Shock Troopers for free off of like Ursula's first activation or these other cards that generate them that we'll talk about later, Summary Execution is essentially the first 3 energy unconditional removal spell that we've seen, right? Because it's just destroy a troop. But what do you think of this kind of take on removal, Harry?
Yeah, I think it's a bit different, and you could even drop that one cost, reduce something in your hand.
Yes, exactly, 100%.
If you wanted, do you know what I'm saying? So for
Yeah.
4, you can reduce something in your hand and destroy something big.
Yeah, yeah. So it kind of almost has a hidden cost. Like you have to have something on the board, of course, for this to have a
Yeah.
legal target because it has to. You have to have a card that this is killing on your board and theirs. Um, but yeah, it's cheap, right? 3 energy feels about right, I think, for this effect, because you got to have something else there, and that is a perfect combo with the Faburn Vanquisher. You play that out, get your little value, then sacrifice it essentially to kill something much more powerful. So I think it's really flavorful as a card. I figured we would see something like this where you get a benefit for killing your own troop. Um, yeah, and I think it makes the guard, potentially a very good control faction. Like having access to 2 of these, being at 3 energy, having cheap cards that you kind of want to sacrifice, having removal for some of the best, most nastiest units in the game, and just destroying it, I think it's just a really powerful thing. So, um, doesn't fight through camouflage, but you've got Recon Operation to clear up the camo if you then want to
Yeah.
execute after that. Yeah, exciting stuff. And then we move on to the Flamer Trooper. 3 energy, blast 1 for a 2/3/3, and then it's got duty, deal 2 to 3 damage to all enemies. So this is a nice little card. If you can give it flank, it's going to use its duty ability as long as it has a legal target to attack, which I assume you would do if you're going to use that. And then 2 to 3 damage to all enemies. It's got blast 1 itself. It is 3 energy for 3 health. You'd be happier if this had 4 health, certainly. This is going to be pretty clearable by a 3 or 4 energy turn for your opponent. But I think it's offering quite a nice little bit of value on a troop. Yeah, how do you feel about the Flamer?
I feel like this will be in you'll put this in the beginning and see how you get on with it. It
Yeah.
seems worth it. Like,
I agree.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's the Flamer Trooper. Then we've got Artillery Strike. I think is very on brand for the Astra Militarum. Deal 3 to 5 damage to 2 random enemies. So this is like a Scorcher Assault +1, right? But it's only hitting 2 random enemies. So I do think this is a little bit worse than Scorcher Assault. I think Scorcher Assault, because it hits 3 targets, is nice, right? So you know you're going to hit their Warlord to some degree, but then you can clean up 2 other small targets. However, Artillery Strike hits harder, right? The base is 3 damage, and the top end being 5. It kind of depends on what you're doing at 5 energy. This might be worth it. This might not. Like I kind of lean towards like summary execution. Seems like just inherently like a little better. Obviously, it's unconditional, but you do have to set it up. Artillery strike can deal damage, which maybe that's better for more aggressive strategy. But yeah, I think it'll see play. Also, I love the art; it looks sick. Um, but yeah, 3 to 5 damage to 2 random enemies is taking out 2 pretty hefty cards. If you
Um,
don't hit the warlord.
I think it's just a well worse version of Helldrake Strike.
Yes, definitely. Yeah,
Like,
strictly worse. Helldrick strike. Yeah,
yeah, way worse.
yeah,
Uh, I don't know about this one.
yeah. I think that's fair.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't know about this one.
So it's a little underpowered, I think, than what we would
Yeah.
expect. Like it's a slight notch up from Scorch Assault, kind of, because it's only 2 targets, not 3. And then Helldrake Strike is just strictly more damage to 3 units. So
The thing is with Scorcher Strike, it's on 4, in it, and it's 3 targets, 3 to 4 damage with 2 to 4 damage, which is like
yeah,
is normally perfect. Like
it
in
is.
on turn 4, there might be a few units that are like between 2 to 4 health, and you can take out a few of them, so it lines up perfectly. Whereas on 5, I think they've got more than 5 health.
I think that's a great point, Harry. Yeah, you got to think about the curve and like what threats you're seeing at what times. And I totally agree. Scorch Assault just hits a really nice sweet spot on 4 energy, and Artillery Strike might just be a little awkward. Um, yeah, so we'll definitely see. That is the rares. Moving on, epics. We got some stuff to talk about. I feel like the epics have been like really on point these last couple. I think really just for Gene Stealers and for this release, I feel like there's a lot of power packed into them. So let's start off with a 2-drop, the Vox Operator. Love the art in this too. When you deploy a vehicle, give it flank. 2/2/3 for 2 energies. This is a nice utility enabler infantry unit for more vehicle heavy decks, giving flank to don't look too quickly at Valkyrie over there, but that will probably be pretty good because you have to think about it. It's not just flank in terms of like it hits the board and it gets to attack. You also have duty abilities that benefit from flank. So if your duty trigger is really good, looking at you, 8-drop tank that I revealed that deals 8 or 12 damage to the opponent, depending on, or to something, depending on if it has armor. Vox Operator just allows that to happen, right? Immediately. Um, so flank has a little bit more power for the guard because of duty. And so I think Vox Operator will just be a great role player for vehicle focused decks.
Yeah, if you're playing vehicles, you'll be playing this. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And it's just 2 energy for 2/2/3. Stats, solid. Effect, solid. Yeah. Master of Ordnance, I will say, requires more setup, but is really cool. So 3 energy, 2/3, 3 health. At the end of your turn, deal 3 damage to a random enemy for each friendly vehicle in play. Um, Requires setup, not super tanky himself, so he's very vulnerable. Um, but if you have one vehicle, okay, this card is kind of pulling its weight, and then if you have anything past that, this card's doing quite a lot. Um, it is conditional. I think if you're comparing Vox Operator with Master of Ordnance in terms of like kind of raw power, Master of Ordnance is not there because it needs too much setup. But if you get the setup, and I think there are some decks that could protect him, because there's quite a lot of Vanguard, especially with the Ogren floating around. Master of Ordnance might be something that you drop, on 7, 8, 9, 10 energy, later in the game once you've established, and then might just fully swing the game for you.
Yeah,
Yeah, what do you think, Harry?
he's easily dealt with, though, isn't he?
Yeah.
And you're holding on to a 3 till later on in the game is a bit like the 2-drop, the one next to him. Holding on to that makes a little bit more sense because like it's like gives the vehicle flank, like even that flying plain like, oh, 7, 8, 9. On 9 you can drop that and give that flank, but whereas you're holding on to this free drop,
Yep.
I don't know. I think he might get dealt with a little bit too easily.
Yeah, I think those are all very fair criticisms of the card. I'm definitely a little hesitant on how, how much bang for your buck you'll actually get for this card in an average game. But I think maybe as deck lists get more refined, and if you truly can set this thing up without like really having to too much trouble, obviously it can have some pretty huge effects. So yeah, I wouldn't be itching to craft this card. To be honest, I'll also be putting out a video pretty soon, just looking at what cards for each faction people should be making. Master of Ordnance is not the first epic I would be going for. I'll just put it that way.
No.
However, his 4 energy counterpart, the Cadian Standard Bearer, and God, I love this art too. It's so sick. Has some real value packed in. It's 4 energy, 2/3/5, so not huge on the attack stats, but beefy on the health. Rally, deploy a shock trooper. So that's the 1/2/3/3 that has Vanguard and it has its own duty ability. And the Standard Bearer has its own duty ability, which is give +2 range to your units this turn. Duty ability could take it or leave it, but as we know from other cards, this is a 4 energy card that is dropping 8 health worth of units for 4 energy. And one of them has Vanguard, which you kind of have to chew through, right? And then this, if it lives, or I guess potentially if you've got a bunch of troops on the board, this then just gives like a huge Anthem effect and can give +2 range to your units that turn, including your Warlord. So I just feel like this is like a good bang for your buck for 4 energy. It's nothing flashy, but it's probably a little bit better for more of like a grindy kind of like a later game deck, because this is a 4 energy card that kind of helps you get a bit of defenses going. But yeah, I think any deck that's able to go wide would also benefit from this kind of card.
Yeah, I reckon this is a good card as well.
Yeah.
Like, if you've got a couple units on the board, and that also gives it to your hero as well, don't it? To unit.
Yep.
Yeah, this is an auto include.
Yeah, it's only for the turn, but still, right? Like you play this on 4 energy, you get some good defenses up. You play this later in the game, and you give him flank, and then activate duty, and all of your units have +2 ranged. Great, right? So. Yeah. I just think that this is a card that has just inherent good stats. Dropping 8 health on 4 energy is a lot to chew through. It just means that it's going to be really hard to get to your Warlord, and they're going to have to really deal with these units. And unless you've got things like the Attilan, I don't know why I want to keep calling it Atlan, the Attilan horse rider guy. Unless you're facing down that, this card is just going to be really annoying to deal with. And speaking of annoying, we've got our first flying vehicle that we're looking at here, the Valkyrie, which I had someone comment in one of my videos. They're like, "You think you're going to make it?" And they did. It's here. 7 energy, 2/6 on the attack stats, 8 health, definitely slated towards the ranged attack. It is a flying unit, and it's got a duty ability, deal 1 damage to all enemies, and for each one that dies, deploy a shock trooper. So if you've gotten things low and you're trying to recover, look no further than Valkyrie getting flank from the Vox operator, or maybe from some other effect. Comes in, swoops in, deals like this blanket 1 damage, and each time a unit dies, you're going to get a 1/2/3/3 Vanguard unit. And it's 7 energy for 8 health.
Yeah.
So.
You ain't gonna reliably be able to get loads though, are you? Against the Scarab you will though.
Yeah, Scarabs will run in fear, I think, if this is going off. Because welcome to my board full of shock troopers after that.
You'll have too many shock troopers.
yeah, we actually will. Yeah, because they'll have
You'll
a
be
full
able to
board.
put off your own stand.
Yeah. So let's say the duty ability, it is pretty conditional. I agree. What do we think of a flyer at 7 energy that has 8 health and these attack stats with a bit of a bonus?
I'm saying nah.
Okay. Okay. I think I want to play this card. It is a vehicle. We'd have to have stuff that enables vehicles. I like. I don't think I would play 2. I think this is a card where I would play 1 because it's not going to be great into a lot of board states, but this card really can turn the game around if you get it at the right time. Obviously, you don't want to have a lot of cards like that in your deck. You don't want to bank on the best condition being the one that you're building your deck around. But I still think it's an annoying flying unit that's pretty beefy, and can rain down that 6 ranged attack. So in certain matchups, you're going to be ahead because they're not going to have as much access to dealing with flyers. And then this duty ability, whether you use it then or later, yes, your opponent can play around it to some degree. But I think if you're able to reliably get 1 to 2 shock troops off of Valkyrie in the average game, I think it's doing its duty, shall we say?
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel you in the sense, Harry, that like this just might not be good enough at 7 energy. I think that's a fair critique. Yeah.
The elf flyer, the one that does 6 damage to a flying unit, that's like
oh yeah, the Raven, one.
Yeah.
That card is great. That's just a good
plus 6 energy flyer from Space Marines with flank at plays this like maybe it needed a bit more, I think.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think there are other things that match up better against this, and it may just be not good enough. I'm interested to try it. I think it's like one epic that I think I would like to play one of in a sort of vehicle deck, or like a defensive deck, and see how it goes. So yeah, that's Valkyrie. Moving on to Avenging Zeal, sort of discounted. Vengeance for Cadia. It's going to be 8 energy. Give +2 range to your units until your next turn. Lower the cost by 1 when a friendly troop dies. So a lot of differences from Avenging Zeal. And for those who don't know, that's a 10 energy card that gets discounted every time you codex for the Ultramarines, that then gives permanent +2/+2 to your Warlord and to any units in your hand, or on the board. So this is very different, right? It's 8 energy, so it costs less. It's only +2 range to your units until the next turn. This is kind of like enabling regiment, right? Where you want to be making ranged attacks. But it also gets cheapened when a friendly troop dies. We've got ways to sacrifice troops. We've got ways to put troops in the meat grinder with all these shock troops running around. I don't think it's crazy to think that this card in an average game would hit 5 or 4 energy fairly easily. And then the question is that good enough, right? Is getting +2 ranged for a full turn cycle on your turn and their turn, is that good enough to play as a card? It's funny, I feel like these last two we're really looking at maybe 1 copy in a deck. I don't think you would play 2 Vengeance of Cadia. Maybe you would. I think it's sort of like a nice effect that I think is easy to enable, but it's not particularly powerful. So I kind of have... Yeah, I don't know about this card. What do you think, Harry?
You don't want to get stuck with 2 of these in your hand and nothing else, like that would be not fun. So I think, like you said, this is a one of, I reckon.
Yeah.
You can go a bit wide though with all these troops. So like, it could work.
Yeah. You can see the conditions in which the card would be good. The question is, are those conditions replicable? Can you get that every game? And is Vengeance for Cadia truly a finisher that's going to allow your whole board to just last on them, out of the game? I'm not sure. I think these last two and Master of Ordnance are a little bit of a question mark. But I think Vox Operator serves a great role in the vehicle decks, and Cadian Standard Bearer I think is just all around good. So those are the epics, folks. Let's get into the juicy stuff, the legendary cards. And we're looking at 5 of the, I think it's usually 8 or 9 legendaries. I didn't actually count. But as you can see from the bottom here, 2 of these legendaries also generate a legendary spell. Or a legendary stratagem, I should say. So, starting off real strong here, we've got Minka Lesk, who's got a sick bolter there. 3 energy, 4/3/4, so it's the same stats as the Ogrin that we looked at earlier. She does not have Vanguard. That's not her role. She says friendly infantry costs 1 less. So this is an effect we've seen from the Tau that allows for, I think it's actually troop instead of infantry. So this is a little bit more narrow because it only applies to infantry. And then Cadian Honor is the talent that you will see if Minka Lesk makes it past turn, which I'm not sure that she will. But there it is. Give +1 ranged to your troops and reload their duty abilities. That's 2 energy for Cadian Honor. I'm a huge fan of 3 energy legendaries that pack quite a punch. I kind of like that style. This reminds me very much of the Galaron's Champion, where it's like this has a I have to die sign on my face. And then if you don't kill me, then I'm going to get a boatload of value. So, yeah.
Do you know what I really like about her?
Tell me.
In the picture, in her actual card, she's got her sleeves rolled up, and in her other one, she's got her sleeves rolled down when she's not fighting.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. I like that little detail. Yeah, and she's got the lasgun on her back and the Cadian on her, but in the picture, you can see mostly the bolter.
Yeah.
So, yeah. No, I also just the art for the set, too. I think just they keep outdoing themselves, I feel like with how the cards look. But yeah, Minka Lesk, unless you're truly not running any infantry in your deck, and it's possible that you're not. It's possible that in a vehicle deck you only have a couple infantry slots. But I think if you're going for infantry, if that's your thing, Minka is your girl. She is just exactly what you want to be doing at multiple stages in the game.
Yeah, 100%. She's good. Yeah.
So that's Minka. Moving on over to the Tech Priest Engine Seer. And as you can imagine, this is going to be a little bit more vehicle focused card. So his regiment ability is a 5/3/4, very killable by 4 energy. Just saying, 4 health is nothing too powerful at 4 energy. But what does he do? Regiment. So again, if another unit makes a ranged attack, heal 2 to a friendly vehicle. Again, heal is a little worse because it's not plus health, meaning that something has to have taken damage to benefit from the heal effect. So you'd have to have a vehicle that has taken some damage and lived to tell the tale. And for those who haven't had as much experience in this game so far, this is a heavy tempo game where kind of the board is constantly being fought for in terms of like units being able to live. And Tech Priest is going to be pretty easy to kill, but he does offer a little bit of value with the regiment. And then I think much more interesting is the duty ability. Lower the cost of all vehicles in your hand and deck by 1. So, can you say Battlefield Supremacy stapled onto a unit?
Yeah, he's going to be a must in vehicle decks, isn't he?
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, you need this either to live to use the duty ability, or you need to give him flank to use the duty ability, which is conditional, right? So I don't know how easy that is to do, but as long as you're activating Tech Priest's duty ability, that's all you care about. And the body on top of it is just like icing on the cake for vehicle decks. So yeah. I think this is a cool approach to vehicle decks, I think.
I'm looking at that next one, Tim.
Yeah, this is your boy. All right, let's get into it. Nork, Dead Dog, another Ogrin. He's got this massive like saw on this like huge gun. And a wonderful cigar and what looks like a giant knife on the right side here. 6 energy, 7/5 on the attack stats, 6 health, 1 armor, Vanguard because all the Ogryn have it, and then he's got a talent, which is Renowned Bodyguard here in the middle of these three. 1 energy, your Warlord gains invulnerable until your next turn.
Insane. It's insane. If he lives, and you can get invulnerable, yeah.
Yeah, this dude's so beefy. He's so big, and his attack stats are massive. And I think like when you start really thinking about 5 energy cards, 6 energy cards, you have to think about that there are quite a few 6 melee attack flankers in the game. Like that's sort of like a standard that's in Warforge, and this guy lives through that, right? Like yes, they can kill him with their Warlord attack that turn as well, but they're going to be taking minimum 5 to do that. And anytime this thing lives, 1 energy to make your Warlord invulnerable for a full turn cycle is just like excellent. This thing has Vanguard. They have to chew through it. And it's 6 health with 1 armor that hits like a truck.
Yeah.
I just feel like this is, although he's infantry as well, we're looking at 3 infantry legendaries to start. I just think this thing is beefy and you're going to want it. I could totally see Nork going into any Imperial Guard, any Astra Militarum deck, whereas Minka and the Tech Priest have a little bit more of a niche role, specifically toward infantry or vehicles. I think Nork is just your boy, no matter what.
Yeah, he goes everywhere.
Yeah. I knew you would like him, so
I do like him.
Validated. All right, let's talk about what I think are 2 of the scariest, and of course, because they're legendary, scariest stratagems for the Astra Militarum. Cadia stands 4 energy. Love the art here. Just making sure that Cadia doesn't fall. For the rest of this battle, at the start of your turn, deploy a shock trooper.
Holy.
Yeah. So remember when we looked at Ursula Creed earlier, and it was like, oh yeah, you can get like legendary stratagems off her ability, I guess. Also they cost 1 less. So imagine just ripping Acadia Stands off of Ursula turn 1, so on 2 energy, and then 3 energy turn you play Acadia Stands. So you're literally just starting the game where every turn you get a shock trooper. So
this is strong.
Yeah, it's not great in the late game, right? Like this is not a card you want to see past turn like 6 or 7, or like 6 or 7 energy, because it actually just doesn't matter that much, because you're spending 4 energy, like a full most of your turn, to get this effect for the following turn, and that's still just like kind of a measly little troop. But I just have to think every game this is played on 3 energy or 4 energy, the game is basically just, I don't know how you win through that sort of value. Maybe Chaos could do it with like the litany of melee flankers that they have. I don't know, maybe there's some other factions that could deal with this sort of value every single turn, but it's just a really powerful effect if this hits the board early.
Strong in it.
Cadia be standing strong on this one, I gotta say.
They just come out, this is another one that looks strong. If we're looking at it now, we're thinking, well, yeah, this is strong, but we don't know. I feel like we're gonna have to try with this one.
Yeah, we are gonna have to try, and I think Ursula makes this card good. I think the other Warlords, we'll see. And it's funny because we're going to talk about Godspear Warhead too, and they're both on opposite ends of the spectrum, right? Cadia Stands is going to be the best played early as possible. Godspear Warhead has to be played later in the game. But it's interesting, right? Because you can put both of these in your deck and sort of shore up, right, like your early and late game to some degree. But you're right, Harry. We can look at this raw power and we can envision a world in which this card is just going to be really, really strong. but until we actually play the games, look at what the average stats are of what these cards are doing. It is hard to tell. We can make predictions, but at the end of the day, we do have to actually see how it's played out. But yeah, Cadia Stands, really cool card, really sick art. I think it's gonna be a problem when you see this hit the game early, shall we say? And I hope there's a little graphic too. Like I always hated that we didn't get a graphic for Hallowed Martyrs, like on the Warlord or something. I hope there's like a cool little graphic for Cadia Stands. Um, but anyway, that's enough about that. Godspear Warhead, 9 energy. The animation for this is truly terrifying. Um, Deal 10 damage to all enemy troops. So it's a one-sided. It's a plague win for you Magic players out there. Right? Deal 10 damage to all enemy. That's going to kill all enemy troops. There's basically no condition where that doesn't wipe their entire board. Now we've seen something sort of similar out of the Sisters of Battle. The 5 energy legendary spell that either it kills the thing with the highest attack, and then if you have 8 faith, kills everything on the board. So you're never gonna play it on turn 5 as a 5 energy board wipe. That's gonna come later. Godspear Warhead, I think, is technically worse than that card because you can't play it on 5 energy. You have to wait till 9. But you can guarantee that on 9 energy, you're going to kill their entire board. So we know how strong Will of Gork is, and that kills both sides of the board, and that costs 8 energy. Although you can get 2 copies of Will of Gork in your deck, you can only have 1 of the Godspear Warhead. Ursula can pull multiple Godspear Warheads, technically.
Dear.
So that's a scary thought. But yeah, it's hard for me to know what to make of this card. Obviously, it's really good for late game. It is just going to like put you massively ahead or catch you massively back up. So I just have to think Godspear Warhead is going to be good. I don't know that this is going to be in every guard deck. I think it really just plays very well with the later game strategies, but it is something.
It's quite nice.
I think it's going to be doing work. You're not going to see this all the time. There's only 1 copy, but you once you start getting to the late game, if you're not putting pressure on the guard, this is going to be a problem. So, be interested to see how this card ends up playing. But I'm very excited for Nork, my cigar smoking boy. I think Binka's got some great value. Tech Priest, obviously Cadia Stands. And there's obviously more legendaries we're not talking about in this video, but I think a lot of them have a clear role to play, and it's really just going to be about how well does it play that role. So that is that. And to close out the video, we're just going to kind of look at kind of the more important card types, from a bird's eye view. I did a little bit of this in my previous video, but I kind of wanted to highlight just what multiple infantry cards are doing, kind of getting a sense of, how powerful are the infantry. Is it worth it for me to go for infantry synergies like with Minka, who's going to reduce their cost by 1? And I think there's some cool card design going on here. We've got things, just to talk briefly, like the Cadian Medic, which gives you a little bit of value when you're attacking with your Warlord or other things. Same with Rattling. I've actually heard quite a bit of talk about Rattling being pretty good. Deal 1 damage to a random enemy troop, and it's got good stats. It's a ranged card that enables your regiment. It's got 3 health for 2 energy, which is just a good breakpoint. You want to see that on your 2 drops. Obviously, Swarm Lord eats those for breakfast, but besides him, and I guess Imatech with his Lightning Storm, this thing is gonna see some value. So like Cadian Medic and Rattling offer some cool incidental value. Shock Trooper Sergeant has a solid duty ability, but in terms of his stats, he's not too crazy. Commissar's cool. Friendly troop gets duty, give it armor. So or triggers duty rather, get armor. Astropath, very cool card. I got to see Ecclesiarch talk about. Kind of interesting designs. It's shield, camouflage, duty, draw stratagem, and lower its cost by 2. So that's drawing it from your deck. So this is a card where you could kind of build around it, right? And have two astropaths and say, all right, I'm going to have like two or three very powerful stratagems in my deck. And then when I draw them, they're going to be reduced by two. So it's kind of a cool thing here. Bulgrin, Harry, I feel like you got to love this guy too. Bulgrin Bonehead,
Yeah.
5 energy, 5 health armor, 3/4 on the attack stats. Vanguard, of course. And it's got blast too. So if you don't blast past him, he's gonna blast you. So
He's just got bundles of stuff, isn't he?
yeah. All the Ogren have like pretty beefy stats, which makes sense.
Yeah.
So I love that. Yeah, and just to close it out with these two, and then I want to hear what Harry thinks of some of these guys. Katie and Castellan, maybe 6 energy, 6/6/6. We've actually seen this before from the GSC, the Gene Stealer cults. Regiment, lower the cost of a friendly troop in hand by 1. So you can get a little bit of value when he hits the board. I'm a little skeptical of how good that card actually is, but we'll just have to see. And then we actually are going to look at an additional legendary here. Mylan Drost, 8 energy, 8/6/8. Regiment, draw a card. So you plop this guy down. Kind of like the Librarian for the Ultramarines. You're going to get that card out of your Warlord attacking. And then he also has a duty ability. Your next stratagem this turn costs 5 less. So getting some nice value. But just from the infantry you've seen so far, Harry, what do you think about them?
I think Astropath's really strong.
Yeah, I agree.
The 4 cost, because you can get that legendary that blows up the whole board.
And make it cost 2 less.
Yeah. How insane is that?
Yeah, playing that on 7 energy is pretty scary.
Obviously, Bully Bone the Ed. I think he's amazing.
Yeah, I like him for a common. I almost put him on the common page. But yeah, I think he offers some cool stuff. I do really like the aggro player in me definitely loves Katie and Medic and Ratling. They're just like these cheap little troops that like have a good stat line and like have a little bit of incidental value. Is that value going to add up to something larger so that infantry are kind of like getting this incremental value and it really creates some strong power level? I don't know. We really have to play the cards to be like, our infantry, combining into something more, that they're more than the sum of their parts. But I just love like the little cheap value that they offer. Also, sorry if you're hearing this dog go crazy in the background. I guess he's also excited for the Astra Militarum. Yeah, but yeah, I'm excited to play some infantry. I don't know about you.
Yeah, do you know what? I'm probably going to build an infantry, half vehicle to start off with, and then just work my way through,
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's some infantry that clearly synergize really well with vehicles and vice versa. And we actually haven't gotten to talk as much about vehicles quite yet. So let's close it out with that. So looking at these vehicles, and I could have put more on this slide. Absolutely, there are like so many vehicles in this set. And also I did sneak in a cheeky stratagem because I feel like we should talk about that too. But yeah, vehicles galore as we could imagine for the Astra Militarum here. So let's quickly go through it and then we'll talk about our impressions. Autocannon squad, 3 energy, 1/4/4, good stat line. 3 energy, 4 health, hits really hard in the range department, has its own regiment, which is gain +1 ranged, and that's permanent, right? So your other units, it itself, not other units, itself will get that +1. And so picking something off as you play this beefs it up to a whopping 5 ranged energy or 5 ranged attacks. Sorry, it's been a long day, folks. On 3 energy for 4 health. Just like the autocannon squad. It's funny that it's a vehicle. Sort of feel like this is infantry, but whatever. That's fine. I think that this is just like a nice little cheap guy. And then Armored Squadron, kind of wanted to show this off. This is a 4 energy epic stratagem. Choose an Astra Militarum vehicle and put it into your hand, and it costs 2 less. So again, this is a card that allows you to select outside of your card pool For you new players, that's just a really great thing that can increase the power level of your deck when you're first starting off. And making it drop by 2. Again, we see another energy reduction for vehicles. So there's quite a bit of that, and we'll talk about why. Because as you can see, the energy costs keep going up here. We've got Bombast Field Gun, 5 energy, 155. It's got long range. Shout out to the Tau who introduced that to the game, and it's got duty. Deal 3 to 5 damage to an enemy and its adjacent units. You get that blast effect for 3 to 5 damage. And it's long range, which means that it doesn't take retaliation damage until it's been attacked. And so that's pretty spicy. We've got Hydra, 6 energy, 277. Just beef kind of all around. Regiment, deal 3 damage to a random enemy with flying. So an interesting kind of tech card. Obviously, this is anti-air. So that's very, very on brand for the Hydra. Chimera, heard a lot of buzz about this card. Let's look at why. 6 energy, 3/4 attack stats, 7 health. Again, these breakpoints are good. You get, if you have a +1 health from your energy cost, that's just a good breakpoint. Friendly infantry troops have armor 1, and it's got a duty ability to deploy 2 shock troopers. Those are those Vanguard cards for 3 energy. Lehman Russ tank, we've got multiple Lehman Russ. I didn't even put the 8 energy one up here. 7 energy, 7/1, 5/7 on the attack stats. Very reminiscent of the Predator tank. Regiment, deal 2 damage to a random enemy. So if you've got some shock troopers set up there and then you plop out that Lehman Russ, it's going to start getting to put out some nice suppressing fire. Then we've got an epic tank, Rogaldorn tank, which has armor 2, 9 health, 9 energy, 6/9 on the attack stats, with Vanguard, armor 2, of course, and it gives +1 range to your units this turn with the regiment ability. And of course, last but not least, before we talk about these guys, Baneblade tank. We knew it was going to be here. 10 energy, 6 melee, 12 ranged, 12 health, 2 armor, and it has adjacent units have armor 2. So yes, you can give 2 armor to your Warlord, and it has a duty ability, just to add more words on this card, deal 8 damage. So those are just a handful of the vehicles that are in this set. Harry, what do you think, my guy?
Them 9 and 10 tanks are problems, mate. Like they're like, whoa, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
I think this faction is a vehicle faction.
There's a lot of support for vehicles. There's a lot of support for infantry, don't get me wrong. But we have multiple cards that either apply to troop or to vehicles in the cost reduction department. So these bad boys are hitting the battlefield ahead of schedule. And I just think that that's going to be pretty scary. So, yeah, and I love the variety here. You know, we've got kind of like the 3-drop utility, just good stats. We've got Bombast Field Gun, which, to be honest, on the stats is like okay, but if you get to live the dream and like flank this thing, it's doing a ton of work. Hydra, honestly pretty beefy, even if it's not doing that much against flying enemies. Although, you know, that's a condition I wouldn't be super excited to slap this in every deck. But then Chimera's got some nice infantry synergy, right? Friendly infantry troops get armor 1. It also creates infantry troops off of its duty ability. And then these last 3 tanks, I think, just offer obviously quite a lot in terms of utility, you know, continuously. And so when you get to play them on 6 or 7 or 8 energy instead of 10, 9, or 7 or whatever it is, yeah, I just think that it's gonna be scary to face down these tanks ahead of their actual energy cost when they're getting cost reduced.
Yeah, you're gonna need to remove these with like removal in your
yeah, these tanks are going to be rolling on in, and let's hope we all have a way to deal with it. So that's what we've got for you today, folks. That is the Astra Militarum faction overview. We still looked at plenty of cards, and as much as I love looking at an entire set, I think this was good. We got a sense of the Warlords. We got a sense of each rarity and some of the cards that kind of stand out or are really showing quite a bit of power or quite a bit of synergy. Looked at all those different rarities, and then we got a sense of kind of what the infantry are offering as the bigger picture now, because we were missing quite a few cards a couple days ago, and these the just huge list of vehicles that are going to be rolling out of a garage and onto your doorstep on Warpforge very soon. So, um, but yeah, I mean, what? Let's talk about first impressions before we close things out. Maybe talk about what we're interested in, doing right away. Um, but yeah, Harry, I'm interested. You're seeing these fresh. You haven't seen the full set. But what are some first impressions for you about the Astra Militarum?
I feel like they're coming out a bit better than Gene Stealers.
Hmm. Okay.
I do. I do think they're coming out a little bit better than Gene Stealers. I think what I think is people haven't discovered the best just yet. I feel like there's something hidden between all these like these Astra Militants, mate. But yeah, I don't know I don't know what direction.
Yeah, like what it's not clear yet what like the strongest strategy will be. Um, yeah, because there are like some synergies amongst infantry, obviously amongst vehicles, and then some of the infantry help enable the vehicles and vice versa. And I think it's also going to be really interesting to see which warlords stand out and which warlords really enable the strongest strategies. I feel like the rare, Dankler and Ursula kind of have the most going for them in terms of like synergy, right? Because Dankler giving flank to infantry, clear, great thing. And then with Ursula, getting really powerful stratagems so that maybe you can just play a bunch of tanks in your deck or a bunch of infantry, knowing that you can snag these pretty awesome stratagems at a discount. Yeah, I mean, I feel like out the gate, those two seem the most attractive to me in terms of like what they're offering. But then also Leontis is 40 health, has like a nice utility duty ability, and also like if you're able to go wide or you go into the late game, I could see him grinding you out with his warlord ability, dealing adding to your board or adding to the warlord himself. Um,
Yeah, I think all three are okay actually. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, lots to explore still. Obviously, this is literally the day of release on October 3rd when we're recording. I have not even touched opening my packs yet, so we are totally looking at this, fully fresh and without
Yeah.
too much data to back it up. But I agree. I think Gene Stealers have had this interesting arc. Just to close this out, where they were the newest faction to be revealed before the Imperial Guard, the Astra Militarum, and they had this crazy combo potential with Infestation. Then that got nerfed. Then other strategies have been explored, and now I really feel like Gene Stealers have quite a bit of play to them, quite a bit of power. I think Magus was kind of disrespected early on because Primus Sappha had more of that combo potential, but now everyone's kind of complaining about Magus because it's really strong. So I think Gene Stealers found their footing. It did take a while for people to figure them out, and I think they do just have so many permutations of like what they can do. The Guard, I feel like, have a little bit more upfront power. I think from what you were saying, Harry, I think I agree. But also, it's not super clear to me quite yet, like how you're going to build the best deck. Um, it's early days, folks. It is
Yeah,
the
that's
first
what I
day.
one thing I will say as well, looking at this picture, this thumbnail, bro, we need a film with the
Mm,
Tyranids invading
mm.
the planet and the Astra Militarum defending the planet.
Yeah, yeah, we gotta get that. And a
We
Space
gotta
Marine
get
two,
that.
Space Marine two, you're landing right, and you're like around the guard, and you're like there to help them out. And it almost feels like you're in a movie because that game is like so beautiful. Uh,
Oh, I need to get it. I'm getting
but
it.
yeah, yeah, me too. I've just seen some clips, but Yeah, it's so true, right? You look at this and you're like, oh, I could see this epic battle, you know.
I need a film. We need a. How long will we be waiting for a film, do you reckon?
I think I don't know. I mean, I think they've been working on something with Henry Cavill because he's like a huge Warhammer fan. But I don't know if that's a movie. That might be more of like a series. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, we definitely need one. I feel like Warhammer's overdue. Like Warhammer 40K is overdue for some like bigger cinematic debut. So
Yeah.
but that's what we got for you guys today. Thank you so much for joining us here on the channel. Please check out Harry also on his channel. He is a multi-talented gamer, unlike me. I stick with what I know. So feel free to check out his content. All of that will be in the description below. And just let us know what you think. I am always curious to see like how different cards land for people, what they're excited for, what they're scared of. I do have some concerns about the mana cheats that are happening in this faction. But also I could see some cool synergies with other stuff going on. And I just want to get my hands on the cards. I don't know about you, Harry, but
Yeah.
and
Definitely.
just see what the guard have to offer. So, yeah. Any final thoughts here, my friend?
Um. I actually. Do you know what it is? It's hard for me because I really like the Gene Stealers because they were
Me
like
too.
aliens and that they're like they had really weird like things like put sabotage in the hand and that was really like I
So
liked that.
different. Yeah.
Yeah, like it fitted me. Whereas like these kind of remind me of Space Marines in the sense
Yeah.
like very value, you know.
Yeah. There's quite a few parallels. I agree. Even
But
to the point of like how some of the tanks are statted, and like what the Ultramarines also had.
yeah, they remind me a lot of Ultramarines. So look, I'm still gonna play with them. I'm still gonna make a deck. Still gonna like they're the new faction, but I ain't even played loads of the other factions I've wanted to play, like Gene Stealers, like
Yeah.
the new Space Marine hero.
I know there's so much going, and we heard from Andreas, from EG, that there are other releases planned before the new year.
What?
Not I don't think faction. I mean, no, he didn't say. He didn't say there were faction or reinforcement, but we will definitely be getting more content, which is crazy because we're in October. This is like the faction release. It is the release of the game officially. And we still have 2 more months where we're going to see new content. 100%. So,
Jesus.
yeah. So yeah, with that, I think we'll close things out. As always, I appreciate Harry you coming through, and
Thanks for having me, man.
yeah, thanks for joining my rambling about the Astra Militarum. We always love doing this. So other than that, please check out the Card Talk podcast playlist on the channel if you want to check out some of our earlier episodes. We will definitely be doing a follow-up episode with Slither, who is a top 5, top 10 player always on the ladder, and a great deck builder. We're hoping to bring that to you guys sometime next week, where we will take you through our initial builds of the Imperial Guard and really do a bit of a deep dive into deck building with the Astra Militarum. So stick around for that, and show your support to the channel if you love what we're doing. And other than that, we will catch you guys next time.
Cheers. Bye.
Get in the trenches.